Alright, so now we're going to actually apply the code onto our project here. Okay, so first things first, let's make, we're going to do a function that's just going to set some stuff up, and then we will use some other functions after that. So I'm just going to go down here, and I'm just going to do a function, and we'll call it setup, like this, and void. So it's just going to be a set up function, and basically it's just going to set all of the pieces up. It's just to kind of keep things clean. Let's see, what do we need in here? So I'm going to make it so that we have a target, basically, wherever my my stuff is here. Okay, so I'll make a variable that's going to hold that. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to do a var, and we're going to call it target. Okay, and it will be of the type movie clip. All right. Oops. Type movie clip, and I think that's good. So now I'm gonna do is go ahead and set that up inside of the setup function. So I'm gonna do target. Target is equal to new. And so I get what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this target. So I just made an empty movie clip. There's nothing in it. But what I want is I want to put this in it, this one here. So to do that, what you have to do is you have to make a linkage name. Okay. So anytime, now you know how like when I bring an object in and I can put a let me just show you, and I could take like anything. I take this and I can put an instance name. As long as it already exists, that's fine. But if you're creating an object or you're bringing it from here. You're constructing it from here, you have to give it a linkage name. It's kind of similar to the instance name, so that's what we're going to use. So I'm just going to name mine target with a capital T. So I'm going to do target, new target. So it's going to make a new object out of this one as its template. Okay, so that's gonna create it, and basically it's gonna stuff it inside of this movie clip. Okay, now nothing's been done yet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place that target. So I'm going to do target.x, and I'm just going to put it into the center of the screen. This is going to matter more when we make it mobile, because unless you're touching the screen, you're not going to see the target. And this way it'll stay at the center so you can at least see it. I'm going to set that equal to the stage.stage width times 0.5. Like that, okay? And basically what it's going to do is it's going to say, I want the target, I want its X position, so its left and right position, based on the stage width, which if you took that number, in this case it's 480, that's how wide it is, and then multiply it times 0.5, so make it half of that. So if it was half of that, it'd be 240, so it'll put it right here, okay? Then I'm going to do the same thing, target.y is equal to stage.stage width times 0.5. Okay, so again, I just want it halfway on the up and down. All right, and next, what I'm going to do is this. So I'm going to set up something to kind of help. So my target, if you look, you can see how there's the little dash there. That's where my pointer, that's where the pointer is going to be. So you see there's no drawing in there, but if for some reason your target had like a line through it where the picture was actually there, what would happen is when you go to click, it's not going to read as it's going to read the picture and not what you're trying to put in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off. So I'm going to do target.mouse enabled, and we're going to set that equal to false. And basically, like I said, what it's going to do is it's going to make it so it's an unclickable item. Like when I click on it, it's just not, it's going to completely disregard it. All right. So that works pretty well. And let's see. So now what I need to do is I want to set up, oh, let's not do that. I want to set up this target. So I haven't actually added it to the thing there. Buddy, can you stop the sniffling? I don't want to actually, I want to put it in there, so it's not in there, but I want to attach it. So basically the target is where my mouse is. So to do that, I need to make a looping function. And I'm just going to use the code snippets here for that. So I'm going to go down to event handlers underneath action script. And then I'm going to go enter frame event. and it's going to make this, and I am just going to call this one a loop. Okay, so yeah, loop and loop, just so it's a little more descriptive. So anything that's going to happen over and over again is going to happen in here. So inside of here, what I want to do is I'm going to set my so that every frame, I'm going to set the position of this target that we just made to the position of the mouse. So all we got to do is we're going to do target dot you know what? Actually, I'm going to change this. Let's go ahead and we're going to call this, instead of target, we're going to call it crosshairs. Crosshairs. I don't know if that's supposed to be capitalized, but we'll just can you stop doing that, please? Control C. I'm just going to put this here, here, and here, and here. I have a feeling something wasn't working for a reason here. So I'm going to do crosshairs. Crosshairs. Okay, I'm dot X position. I'm going to set it equal to the mouse X. Okay, so the mouse X is going to be equal to that, and then we're also going to do cross hairs dot Y is going to be equal to, you guessed it, mouse Y. And if I hit Control Enter or Command Enter, you're going to see it's not going to do anything. In fact, it's giving me an error. So it says on line 21, I think. Dismiss all. Let's go over here, line 21. Cross hairs. I'm not seeing any error. Oops. Cannot access. Let's go ahead and take that off. .x cross. Oh, so the reason why this doesn't work is it doesn't exist yet. So I'm trying to set something that we haven't actually had it create. So I need to actually add the object into the scene here. Okay, so what we're going to do is after this, I'm going to go down a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and do add child, and we're going to add the crosshairs. Crosshairs. Okay. So what that's going to do is we created an object. Right, so I made a movie clip. I'm going to call it crosshairs. Then what I did is I'm going to take that target symbol and I'm putting it in there. Then I'm saying, okay, just initially set it up its X and Y's position to the halfway mark. So that's where it would be. And then I made it so that it's not clickable by the mouse, but it doesn't actually exist yet. I put it in code, but we haven't put it onto the stage. Then by doing add child crosshairs, that actually adds it to the stage, okay? Or adds it to what they call the display list. So now, if you hit Control Enter or Command Enter, shouldn't get any errors, or we will. So cannot access a property or whatever. So let's just see what we got going on here. So still saying it can't see it. Let's double check what's going on here. Crosshairs. Let's see, can't. Let's see. Why would that have happened? Let me just pause it. Alright, so I actually know why. I'm kind of an idiot. So one thing is, we got to do a little bit of housekeeping here. If you look, this event listener, right, is constantly going every frame, and then it's going to run this loop every single frame. Now we have this function up here called function setup, but if you look, there's nothing to tell it to run. There's no event listener. So I have to actually call that. What I'm also going to do, though, just to help so that doesn't happen again, I'm going to take this event listener, the one that's enter frame, Control X, and I'm actually going to paste it into the setup function, because now you'll see it's still not going to work, but because it's in there, it won't have that error because it's never being run because we didn't set that up initially. So then what I'm going to do is over here, I'm just at the last thing I'm going to do is just do setup like this. I'm just going to call that function. And now when I hit Control Enter, it's going to run setup, and that's going to add the event listener, and now it should work. And now you can see we have our target on there. Okay. So a little bit of an oopsie, sorry. The other thing I want to do is I want to make it so I don't see my mouse. So after this, I'm just going to do mouse, or sorry, not like that, mouse dot hide, and that's it. Yeah. And that will make it so you don't see the mouse. So you won't see the cursor, I should say. So you can see no cursor. Yay. Okay. That's looking pretty good. So we got that going. All right. So now let's set up the thing that's actually going to make, it's actually going to spawn my enemies here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spawn one enemy, and then we will, we'll adjust it for the other ones. Okay. So before setup, but after the loop one. All right, so we're just going to have a couple of functions here. We're going to make another function, and this one I want to, this is another custom one. So function, and we're going to call it enemy spawn, okay? Doop doop. And it's not going to send us anything, so it'll be another void, all right? And what I'm going to have to do is this. I'm going to do if, I'll explain this afterwards. Math.floor math.random times okay, so I'm gonna go up here and add another variable and we're gonna call this spawn multiplier, and that is gonna be of the type, say int, and I'm gonna set it equal to 25 initially. Okay, spawn multiplier. I'm going to have that multiply times my spawn multiplier. Okay, like that, and then equals 0 like this, and okay. So I'll explain what this is exactly. So it's a normal if statement, so it's conditional. So it says if whatever happens in these parentheses here, if that's true, it's going to run this bit of code. I'm going to start from the inside, work my way outwards, because that'll be a little bit easier. So math.random will randomly create a number for you, okay? So it's really useful. Now, the way it works is that you call math.random, all right? So math, there's a whole bunch of ones. So here's another math function. There's other ones as well. So I'm going to do math, and then it has this built-in method, actually, because it's built into it, but it's a function. Math.random. And then the way it works is that you take that, and you multiply it times a number. And what it'll do is it'll randomly find a number by what you multiply it. So in this case, if my spawn multiplier is 25, it's going to randomly generate a number between 0 and 25. So it's just going to randomly create a number. Now, and that's what it's going to do. What floor will do is it's actually going to, whatever the number that is generated here, it's going to, and actually, let's, instead of doing int, let's do number up here, actually. Let me change this to number. Okay. That way it can be, and we'll do 25.0. That way it can have point values. So anyways, what floor will do is it will round the number. So if it's 1.1, it will round down to 1. But floor doesn't just round, it actually rounds down. So let's say it's 1.5, and normally we always round up, right? That's how we normally do things. It will actually still round to 1. If it's 1.9, it will still round down to 1. It doesn't matter. Whatever the point value, it almost disregards it. It'll round down as opposed to up. Okay, and that's useful. So basically what we're doing is we're randomly creating a number between 0 and 24. And we're saying if the number that it creates is 0, then it's going to run this. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to we'll put it up here already, actually. So right before the child's crosshairs, just go ahead and we'll do enemy spawn. Okay, we're just going to call that function. So if you remember, this is our loop, right? So every frame it's going to run this enemy spawn. All right, it's going to call the enemy spawn and it's going to run this enemy spawn function. What it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, create a number, and it's going to say, randomly create a number between 1 and 25, and it's going to say, 1, and is that equal to 0? No, it's not going to do anything. And then it'll do it again, and then maybe it's 20, and then another time it's 15, and then another time it is 0, and then it's going to run. But if it runs every single frame, and right now we have 25, what that means is that probability-wise, in 1 second, it's more than likely going to say yes, right? It could be a bunch of times, it could be no times, but it's based on probability. So the lower this number is, right? If I make this like, let's say 3, right? That means every 3, it's going to be 1 out of 3 chance that it's going to make it. So almost like every 3 frames, kind of, it's going to make a thing randomly. Okay, it'll randomly decide it's not perfect, which is what we want. But that's what's happening here. So it has to take that 0. All right. So we're going to have it randomly create that, and then what I want to do is I'm going to have to instantiate or create a new object. Okay, so we're going to do a variable called enemy. All right, and we're going to set it equal to a new. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a new object and stuff it into this enemy variable. And actually, I forgot to. It's going to be of the type movie clip. Hit caps lock. Movie clip. Okay, it's going to be a new, and we're going to generate it from this enemy running. I'm just going to call this one enemy. We'll call it enemy just to make things easier. Okay, enemy. All right. So I'm just going to call it enemy. This is what it's going to use. Oh, I already explained that. This is what it's going to use in order to attach itself. So we're going to do new enemy. So it's going to create basically a new one of these based off of this. This is like a class that we're going to be able to build objects off of. So we're going to make a new object and we're going to stick it inside of here. Okay. So now we made a new object. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the initial position of it. So we're going to say enemy, right, dot x is equal to math.random. Okay, you probably remember this. And we're going to multiply it times the stage width, right, minus 100, and then plus 50. All right. Now that might be a little confusing. So what it's going to do is it's going to look at the stage width. In this case, it's going to be 480. So this is pretty flexible. You could have just put in 480. And then we put in minus 100. So it'll subtract that. So it'll make it 380. It'll find the half of that, and then it will add the 50. Basically, the idea is that it's possible that your character could create like right off the screen here. By doing it this way, it's going to pull it in a little bit, so it ends up here instead of here at its farthest part. Okay, and vice versa on this side. So just make sure it kind of stays inside. And I'm just going to copy and paste that and do it also for the height. So Control V or Command V, and it's going to be enemy .y position, math.random, and it's going to be stage not width but height. Okay, and the same numbers and all that. And then lastly, we need to do is actually add it. So we're going to do add child. So we're going to add a new object, and it's going to be enemy like this. Okay, and voila. Now if I hit Control Enter, hopefully this works. It should randomly create people for me. Yay! There we go. And you can see them. And so you can see it's going to randomly position them, and that looks fine and dandy. Yay! All right. So that's pretty okay. Good. So why don't we call that one done for right now, and then in the next video, what I'm going to do is go ahead and do the killing, so we can shoot them. All right, and that should be relatively easy.